سلام دوست خوبم. این درس 5 بخش داره. اول به داستان گوش میدیم و با توجه به تصاویر سعی میکنیم موضوعش رو حدس بزنیم. دوم دوباره داستان رو گوش میدیم و به ترجمه فارسی دقت میکنیم. سوم به سوالات درک مطلب جواب میدیم که بفهمیم چقدر از داستان رو متوجه شدیم. چهارم واژگان جدید رو به یه روش باحال مرور میکنیم. و پنجم تلفظ کلمات دشوار رو با هم تمرین میکنیم. بزن که بریم. Once upon a time, a fox saw a bunch of juicy grapes hanging from a tree. The bunch was too high for the fox to reach, so he jumped and jumped, but he couldn't get it. Eventually, the fox gave up and walked away, feeling angry and upset. He told himself that the grapes were probably sour and not worth the effort. This story teaches us that sometimes people pretend to dislike things they can't have. Once upon a time, a fox saw a bunch of juicy grapes hanging from a tree. The bunch was too high for the fox to reach, so he jumped and jumped, but he couldn't get it. Eventually, the fox gave up and walked away, feeling angry and upset. He told himself that the grapes were probably sour and not worth the effort. This story teaches us that sometimes people pretend to dislike things they can't have. What did the fox see hanging from a tree? He saw a bunch of grapes hanging from a tree. Why couldn't the fox reach the grapes? The bunch was too high for the fox to reach. What did the fox do to get the grapes? He jumped and jumped to try to get the grapes. How did the fox feel after he gave up trying? He felt angry and upset after giving up. What did the fox tell himself about the grapes? He told himself that the grapes were probably sour and not worth the effort. What lesson does the story teach us? The story teaches us that sometimes people pretend to dislike things they can't have. کدوم جمله درسته، کدوم غلط؟ The fox was able to reach the grapes. It is wrong. The bunch was too high for the fox to reach, so he couldn't reach the grapes. The fox jumped multiple times to try to get the grapes. Yes, this sentence is right. The fox felt happy after he couldn't get the grapes. No, this is wrong. He felt angry and upset. The fox told himself that the grapes were probably sweet. No, this is wrong. He told himself that the grapes were probably sour. The grapes were described as dry in the story. No, this is wrong. The grapes were described as juicy. If you have a bunch of grapes, do you have one grape or several grapes? If you have a bunch of grapes, you have several grapes connected together on a single stem. If something is described as juicy, does it have a lot of liquid or is it dry? If something is described as juicy, it has a lot of liquid and is very refreshing and not dry. If something is hanging from a branch, is it attached or free? If something is hanging from a branch, it is attached but suspended downwards. If something is too high to reach, can you easily touch it or not? If something is too high to reach, you cannot easily touch it. It is beyond your reach. If you give up, do you stop trying or do you keep trying? If you give up, you stop trying to achieve something. If you walk away, do you stay in the situation or do you leave? If you walk away, you leave the situation instead of staying. If a fruit tastes sour, does it taste sweet or sharp? If a fruit tastes sour, it tastes sharp and acidic, not sweet. If something is not worth the effort, should you try to do it or not? If something is not worth the effort, you should not try to do it because the effort you need to put in is much greater than the benefits. If you pretend, are you acting honestly? No, if you pretend, you are not acting honestly. You are making it seem like something is true when it is not. If something happens eventually, does it happen immediately or after a period of time? If something happens eventually, it happens after a period of time, not immediately. Eventually. Eventually. Probably. Probably. Pretend. Pretend. Saw. Saw. Juicy. Juicy. Effort. Effort. اگه تا اینجا با هم همراه بودی این جمله رو برام کامنت کن که بدونم درس رو تا انتها دیدی. I enjoy learning English. بهت خیلی افتخار میکنم. اگه نظر یا سوالی داری تو کامنت حتما بهم بگو. تو درس بعدی میبینمت.